Hello everybody, my name's Stephanie Waitman. Can't wait to share with you this fabulous little character called Benji Bunny. Now he's from Two Red Robins. You may have seen over the last few days that I've been demonstrating Forgotten Corner. Want to share with you some new ideas and also not only our Benji Bunny but also some little catkins as well. Now Benji's available in all of these different colourways, and it may be that you even have a bunny at home that matches one of these shades, but these are the designs that we've got for you today. And then also have these catkins. Now they're all Pussy Willow, they're absolutely exquisite. And you've got 6 different colourways of reflections across this collection. Plus you're also getting 4 sets of backgrounds, and there's a special price that saves you £10. It's only valid from Saturday the 10th until the Monday at midnight, and we've done it so it coincides with Crafting Live, so it gives you the chance to actually join in the fun. And if you have got your Forgotten Corner from Create and Craft, you'll know how these elements are going to fit in with it. So I've got a couple of pieces from Forgotten Corner that I'd like to share with you. One of them is the nested boot, and it comes in lots of fabulous sizes, and I know this is going to have proven really popular. So if I take my little bunny and I put him behind, so I'm just going to take a piece of card so we can build ourselves a couple of little scenes. There's the bunny behind the boot. I'm going to take some of those ferns and place them to the side, and we've got everything that we need to create a fabulous card. What about if I take some of the little dandelions and I put there, and he needs to turn his head and he can have a breakfast or a dinner. And then I've got the catkins, and the catkins lend themselves perfectly to just leaning over the edge of the boot. So I'm going to take these elements away. I'm going to take my boot away, and I'm just going to talk about our bunny. And what about if we were to take our little bunny and place him so that he's got his little bouquet of catkins, but he's also got one of his friends with him. So he's whispering in his ear, look, there's a special little message and something that he wanted to share. Perhaps he's saying that the juiciest ones are the little tiny buds that are right at the top. And if you actually take those little buds, not only are they sweet and juicy, but they're also the best possible lunch you could imagine. And you can see how I can pop these little catkins behind and create this whole story. So what we've done is we've given you not only a special price for these 2 fabulous dies and also the reflections, but also they mix and match back with everything that you've been watching on Create and Craft. But I also want to take you into another story. Let's go back to where the story first started of our fabulous Two Red Robins. It's a new brand. I've missed so much working with my husband Carl that it's our opportunity to be able to work together, and my opportunity to bring you something different. And we're telling stories. So this is from our first collection, which was called Field of Dreams. But I want you to see how every time you buy yourself a new die, it just fits into the collection that you've already got. What colour bunny are you going to have in here? Benji looks like he's just had his hair done, but it's the fact that we've got the versatility of being able to play with the design and create these mix and match stories, bringing in other elements that just freshen it up and bring the design to life. So for those of you that are absolute fans and are already starting to love your Two Red Robins, we're now bringing you some new characters where you can actually expand your collection. So Forgotten Corner actually comes with these two exclusives. So when it actually came to the demonstration, it was really difficult to decide which elements to choose. So I'm going to show you a couple of different things. You've seen a couple of compositions, but let's start to actually build and assemble a card. So first of all, when you get your Benjamin Bunnies or your Benji, you're going to get two separate dies. One of them is the outline, so this would give you an aperture shape, which you can see there, and the other one is actually the bunny itself. And for anybody who hasn't used a die before, these raised lines are actually the cut lines, but they're not sharp enough to be able to cut through your fingers. So we line this up over the top of the actual piece of design artwork that we've got here. Now at Two Red Robins we call this Reflections, and that's our version of Charisma. And you then take a little bit of tape and you use it to hold this in place, and I've got some actually on my mat here, so I'm just taking it off and recycling. So I use that and I hold it in place. That then is lifted up and it's going to go onto a magnetic sheet. Now, if you're worried about this moving, you can always work the other way around, and I can let my magnetic sheet actually pick up my page. Well, actually it would if I had the sheet the right way up. So that's the magnetic side, the shiny side. So if I now go down, I felt it actually then get lifted, and there you heard it click in place, didn't you? That's now ready to go into our die cutting machine. Actually, I'm just going to move it slightly because it wasn't actually on the whole plate, so I'm not going to say I did the best job there, but I think you certainly get the idea of what we need to do. So that's going to go in place, and that I know is now where it needs to be. And that's ready to go through my Pro-Cut. Now, I'm a fan of Pro-Cut machines, not only because I was instrumental in part of the development of it, but also I love the fact that you've only got two plates to work with. So your plate combinations are so much easier than some of the other machines. You don't have to remember anything with this one. The other thing that I would say to you is, because my cutting plate is 5mm thick, it stays completely flat, it doesn't bow, so it's a really good benefit of the machine. So check that one out on Create and Craft. We often have special deals on there, and it's always worth looking out for them. So once you've cut your bunny, you'll be left with this, this aperture hole that we've got here, and just tap out my beautiful piece of reflection. And this is fabulous artwork, lots of attention to detail in there. His fur's gorgeous, and there's so many colours bringing this to life. So this is ready for us then to start to craft with. And what I like about Two Red Robins is the elements have been designed for us to be able to create multiple cards, but cards that are clever, cards that are freestanding. So that's the route that we're going to be going here. So I've got two bunnies. These are my two bunnies, and I'm going to use them together to create an actual freestanding card. Now, I've also got in my special little bag of tricks, which is my Craftmaster storage, lots of die cuts. And these are all my white ones that I've saved. So I know in here, I've got a couple of pieces that I've saved that I'm just going to get out. So that's, oh, I've already got that one out ready for me. I'm just going to have a look and see if there's anything else that I'm going to want. But these wallets are absolutely brilliant, because not only does it mean that everything's kept in one place, but we never have to throw anything away. And also, because it's got that little tab on it, it just stores it all perfectly. Lots of different sizes as well, so don't miss out on those. And the dies fit in them perfectly. Then you can keep all of your die cuts in the cello bag that the dies come in. It's a win-win for everybody. So I've got my spare elements that I needed here. And I've got my big boot, and there it is. I was looking for that. So I'm going to work with my boot, and I'm going to use this as my card shape. So those two pieces together are actually going to be the card shape itself. And this is a die from Forgotten Corner, which, you know, I've already mentioned, you've probably seen me demonstrating over the last few days. want to make sure that you don't miss out on it. So where are we going to join these two pieces? It makes sense to do an easel, but it also equally makes sense to do a side opening card, and the side opening card suits this design better. So I'm just going to take this piece and I'm going to fold back the score line that I've created so that this fits perfectly. And then I'm taking my tape pen to the area that I've already can judge because of that score line. Take this and line it up with the edge of the white die cut that I've got, making sure that it lines up perfectly so that when it's open, it sits as a perfect boot, a perfect old boot. I'm just taking a look at that and checking about the shape and the size and the dimension of it, and I'm really quite happy. But more importantly, one of the reasons that I wanted to work like this is I want to be able to use this area as a canvas for my decoration. And this was a design that I worked on that was from our Field of Dreams. And you can see here how now, doesn't that look clever when the two of them sit behind each other? So what we're going to be doing is I'm just going to make sure that I've got everything lined up perfectly. So I need to check that this parallel line here runs all the way through. And I've also then got to check, and I'm just going to do this by eye for a second, where that goes, and that those two pieces are sitting straight. So it's this panel here that needs to be straight, which is what I've just got there. That now means that that second panel needs to be straight, and I'm just going to glue this in position, but with the smallest amount, just to make sure that I have got my angles correct. So let's just try that with a tiny bit. Close this up. Let's open it and see where we get to. Right, so it's not quite as sturdy as I'd like. So I've got something that is hanging over the edge, and I can see exactly what it is. It's the bucket and also some of the edge of those flowers. So I need to go in and do some trims. So I'm going to trim off that edge there, and I'm going to go in and I'm going to trim there. And let's have a look now at how much better that is going to work. Are we there yet? Nope, almost. There's still a tiny piece to trim away, but we're pretty close. I'm not quite convinced that my bucket's working on this design, so I am going to lift this out the way because that makes room for another bunny. So let's just get my bunnies here. So I've got this one. He's quite brown. I think he sort of disappears into the background a little bit. So what about if I go lighter? I think that certainly lends itself to the design. And then I'm going to have a look at whether we may want to have another one. Do I want to pop this one behind? I think that's great. So that little bunny is just peeking through the barbed wire, and I've got another one here. Now I'm going to take the flat bunny, the one without the decoupage, and put that behind, and the one that is decoupaged is going to go in front. So I'm just going to turn my card over, line that up and check where that barbed wire would go, and it will go about there. So this bunny is going to need to be glued across the fence and glued just here. And let's check those elements and make sure that they're right. That feels right, that feels good, and I'm pretty sure that is about on track. Just got a tiny bit that's overhanging the design, so I'm just going to take the bottom off this fence post. Now, if I'd lined this up a little bit more perfectly, I wouldn't have had to make that change. That would have actually worked by itself. But yeah, I just needed to just take that tiny little bit off. So let's take a look at this from this angle. I'm loving the fact that I've got there the bunny peeking through. Now I can take my bunny that's been decoupaged and put him on here. Look at that, that looks just fabulous. It really is creating a story. And the thing about Two Red Robins is we are storytelling. That's what the ranges are about. That's what we hope to achieve. And as the year progresses and you get more and more of these fabulous dies, you will be able to create stories with them too. And so what I'm doing here, I'm just taking out, and I've got some double-sided tape. I want it flat. I don't want any extra dimension to this, and I want it to stick right against that fence post, because one of the things that I want to make sure I'm doing is keeping this card nice and flat so that I've got some dimension to it. Now, at the moment, the back of the card is more weighty than the front. So we're seeing that I'm not getting it, it's not standing up perfectly without some support. So I am going to look at putting some support on the back of this, not because ultimately it can't be corrected by putting weight to the front, but I just don't want to have to worry about it when somebody takes it out the envelope and puts it on the mantelpiece, because be sure these are going to be displayed for weeks and weeks and weeks. So let's look at what the options are to do that. So I've got a spare piece of card here, and all I'm going to do is cut myself a panel from it, and it's as simple as this. And let's make this a really nice, neat rectangle that I'm going to trim at the top and the bottom. And then a piece folded back of about 1 centimetre. Then we're going to line this up so that it fits there, so that it will stand away, so that when that stands back, just going to make sure I've got it really nice and firm, it actually holds everything in place. Whoops, as we go. Slippy craft mat, but it will hold and stand. Okay, so what else do we need to do? Well, I need to use those lovely catkins, because this isn't a finished story without. I've got the little bunnies and they're peeping around the boot, but there's more to this than meets the eye. And it's these catkins, they need to come up into here. And I actually think they would look good if they were growing out the top of the boot, or do I want to have them to the side? Oops, not that one, that's not coloured. That's not one of our reflections. Let's find out. Here they are. These are the coloured ones that I'd like. Do I put them here and have them just so that it's almost like there's a great big twig, and then we put the fern to the side? I mean, that just now is a bunny's lunch, isn't it? Just, it's so pretty and so delicate and so fabulously finished. So I could do a little snip here and put my catkins in, but I don't think I want to do that. I do think I like the idea of them being loose, but I also want to take the story all the way through the back. And so I favour having some of these little catkins behind the bunnies, so that it isn't just that they've come across them, but that they are part of that field. So let's put those on first. And it gives me a chance to also attach this little bit of barbed wire. So I've got to decide whether I want it behind Bunny's head or in front of, and I do think it looks better with it behind. He's just popped in front of there. So I'm going to take a tiny bit of the glue, and I'm just going to use this catkin to attach there. Then I need to turn it over and attach it here, because I've got a little bit of it that's loose. Now, my glue, my tape pen is going to lay down a little bit more glue than I need, but I'm not going to worry about that. I want to just suggest to you that you use your white glue, something that's going to dry clear, and you'll end up with a nice clean finish. But even on the back of my card, it's neat and it's tidy. albeit we've got lots of elements joined together. Now there is another option for something else that we could do. Instead of putting the stand on that I've done here, I could cut another white boot, encase all these elements into it, and that would be another way of finishing off the back. So consider that. If you are somebody that really is a neat person, you need it perfect, then another option for you to do. Just looking at it, and I can see that my little stand isn't at quite the right angle. Can you see that too? So let's just go in there and change that angle. That may have a better effect when it's absolutely, look at the difference when that stood up. It stood up perfectly this time. So another little trick, making sure that everything's level along the bottom. And then let's take these catkins or pussy willows and put them together. Oh, and I just want to show you this. Imagine that you've got all of these together and you're creating a branch with them, creating just a piece of foliage. Look at how they look like they're sort of coming off each other. They look like they're growing from one to another. And you can see how that actually lends itself and it feeds round into almost like a branch. So go back to our card, which we've got here. And the hardest thing about working with 2 Red Robins dies is actually deciding which one to work with, because they are all so exquisite. The reflections is just beautifully finished and illustrated, and every one of them gives you the chance to be a real designer. So I'm just going to take this one so that the branches look like they're following on. So with that in place, I need a tiny bit of glue just there. So that's for that catkin. Let me just make sure that one slides underneath there properly. And then I need that one back down, one just there, and maybe even a little tiny bit up there. Oops, that didn't stick, so I get a tiny bit this time. And I hope you're enjoying picking and choosing your collections, because as you do and you build your ranges, you're going to have so much fun with these. Every time we build a new collection, it brings you a new story. Imagine now the little robin sitting here just talking to the bunnies as they're actually looking over the fence. And then finally, I have to use this fern, which is from our Forgotten Corner. So let's take a little bit of that tape. Remember, the bunnies are exclusive to 2 Red Robins, to Highlight Crafts. If you've been watching Forgotten Corner on Create and Craft, you'll recognise many of these dies, and you may even already have Field of Dreams, which shows you the first in that story. And there's our card and our design. I love the fact that the story continues inside. Everything is mixing and matching, but it's a true example how one range lends itself to the next and brings each of those elements to life. And just by adding our fabulous Benji and those Pussy Willow, you can see how we've changed the look and feel of this. So another way to explore and experiment with your 2 Red Robins. I hope I'll see you soon, whether it's here or on Create and Craft. But don't miss out on this special deal.